This morning, I heard the crowd in Washington babbling again about acceptable losses. What is the truth? One of our KC-135 refueling aircraft just crashed into the barren, isolated desert in the western region of Iraq, a mid-air collision between two aircraft. They say it was not due to either hostile fire or friendly fire. Ridiculous. It is worse than that. It shows a complete logistical exhaustion. These KC-135s are among the oldest and most heavily used airframes in the Air Force's arsenal. We are squeezing the life out of our pilots in challenging air-to-air refueling missions, pushing the aircraft to their absolute breaking point in bad weather and high winds, a war serving the bloodthirsty neocons in the Beltway. Back in early March, 3 F-15E Strike Eagle fighters were shot down by Kuwaiti aircraft in a friendly fire incident. Search and rescue teams are now scouring the hopeless desert for a downed 3-person crew. The children at the Pentagon think we can throw our military all over the world without paying a price. Wrong, dead wrong. Planes crash, American soldiers die, all to serve the delusions of the Uniparty. What are we doing in Iraq? Protecting what? There is no national interest here, only the interests of the globalist elite, the people sitting safely in air-conditioned rooms throwing American lives into the furnace. It is exactly like the asinine quagmire in Vietnam. We send our assets, send our pilots into a hostile theater, run them into the red line, and then destroy ourselves. This is a catastrophe. Our ISR capabilities are stretched to the breaking point. We cannot sustain this operational tempo. Impossible. The math does not allow it. Now look at the map. Do not listen to the lies on TV. Look at the Strait of Hormuz. Geography is destiny. 20% of the world's oil flows through that strategic choke point. Washington beats its chest proudly that we destroyed the large warships of the Iranian Navy. Wonderful. What a grand victory. But they forgot physics. Iran does not need destroyers to blockade the strait. Their new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, ordered the military to continue blocking this route to avenge the blood of the martyrs. And they are doing exactly that by using small boats to lay mines. Mines. That is the weapon of asymmetry. 2 oil tankers off the coast of Iraq were just attacked early Thursday. The Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps claimed responsibility for hitting an American-owned ship under the pretext that it disobeyed and ignored warnings. At least 16 cargo and commercial ships have been hit since the war began. Oil prices have surged despite pledges by the United States and other major economies to release emergency reserves. The global economy is shivering. Why? Because the fools in Washington think they can control a regional power with aircraft carriers. Delusional. Logistics is king. Listen, every war is won or lost on logistics and energy. The West is choking off its own energy supply. The donors of these politicians are panicking. Their integrated air defense networks and mining capabilities are enough to create a meat grinder at sea. Any attempt at intervention is too expensive to afford. It is over. This containment policy has failed. A blatant deception. The energy crisis will collapse our own fragile economy before any strategic goal is achieved. That is a certainty. Let us turn to the theater in the Middle East. Israel is bombing central Beirut into rubble, encroaching further into areas near hip bars, high-end restaurants, and high schools. They are also launching large-scale waves of airstrikes on the Iranian capital of Tehran, targeting infrastructure and a compound used for nuclear weapons capabilities. For what? What is the purpose? What is the method? What is the end state? They have no answers. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu went on television and admitted he cannot say for certain if the Iranian people will topple the regime. Ridiculous. Incredible naivete. You cannot change a regime by bombing their capital from the outside. History has proven this time and time again. Remember Operation Rolling Thunder in Vietnam, or the Wehrmacht's bombing of London in World War II. It only increases hatred and resistance. Using military force to expand the war is strategic stupidity. More than 680 people are dead in Lebanon. More than 1,300 civilians are dead in Iran. Millions are displaced, including hundreds of thousands of children. The anger is boiling over. The delusional fools in the Beltway always believe the fairy tale of internal regime change, but the battlefield truth is just bloody rubble. There is no viable military objective achieved from wholesale slaughter. No Patriot or Iron Dome missile system can protect you forever. The arrogance of the globalists is leading everyone into an unrecoverable catastrophe. This war does not serve the interests of the American people. And here's the most tragicomic part of this whole idiotic play. This morning, the U.S. Treasury Department announced it is temporarily lifting sanctions on Russian oil currently stranded at sea. Lifting sanctions. Did you hear that? Hundreds of millions of barrels of Russian oil will be sold freely to worldwide buyers to save the market. Why? Because the senseless war in Iran has pushed oil prices hovering near $100 a barrel. The arrogant sanctioners of the neocon faction now have to beg on their knees for Moscow's oil to prevent the fury of the American people, as gas prices are higher than at any point in either of President Trump's terms. The stupidity of the sanctions is now fully exposed. They used to pound their chests, saying they would destroy the Russian economy with price caps and crackdowns on the shadow fleet of unmarked vessels. Wrong. Russia is a land power. They have resources. They have a defense industry running 24/7. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin is projecting soft power by ordering an Il-76 aircraft to send more than 13 metric tons of medical aid to Iranian civilians through Azerbaijan. The West has run out of 155mm artillery shells and is panicking. Now, Washington's policy is tearing apart the alliance with Europe, who still wants to maintain economic pressure on Russia. Putin is certainly laughing in our faces. He is always cautious, always patient. His patience is exactly like General Kutuzov facing Napoleon. Just let the enemy weaken themselves. Easing these sanctions until April is not a harmless short-term measure. It effectively means the destruction of the oil sanctions on Russia. A financial system based on debt cannot compete with an economy that produces real commodities. Impossible. Finally, look at the puppets in Europe. French President Emmanuel Macron is whining about their soldiers being attacked, killed, and wounded in the Erbil region of Iraq. What on earth are French soldiers doing in Iraq? Conducting counterterrorism training? All lies. They are there because Washington told them to be there. NATO today is just a dead man walking. It is disintegrating from within. European nations are disarming themselves, deindustrializing themselves to serve the insane hegemonic ambitions of the Uniparty. We are witnessing the collapse of a delusional world order. Look, Prime Minister Nawaf Salam of Lebanon begs for his country not to become an open arena for the wars of others, but who cares? The casualty numbers will keep rising. This meat grinder of human lives will not stop until the elites are overthrown or the money runs out completely. A war of attrition does not care about eloquent speeches. It only cares about who has more ammunition, who produces faster, and who has better endurance. Our forces are under attack everywhere, and President Trump shrugged off soaring oil prices, saying the war is moving along very rapidly to prevent Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Pure sophistry. The West has lost in this mathematics of war. Finished. It is over. The only solution, the only way out for America right now is to withdraw, bring every soldier home, close the useless bases in the Middle East, focus on securing our own borders, stop throwing money into the filthy military-industrial complex. The catastrophe will not stop in the Middle East. I repeat, it is over. Those fools must be thrown out of power.